And when you have children, you are born as well, right? You are born into motherhood, which is a role that you cannot prepare for. Like there's
And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma.
Hey, Brittany.
hello, thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for being a guest on this podcast. I'm a fan of your podcast. We'll get into that later. But before we get into it, before we get into the meat of what everybody's looking for, the self-care tips for mom, I want us to take it back a bit. And you can tell us a little bit about your background, how you even got into this, and that you have a 9 to 5 and a business. And I think that's something that a lot of moms want to know how do you manage that? Because there are a lot of women who are interested in doing this as well.
Yeah, so I am a self-care and mom life management coach. And basically, I started off just living the experience of motherhood and going through that overwhelm and resentment and all of that exhaustion that we go through, especially as new mothers. And I, one, understand what it feels like, and two, completely understand the methods to really come out of that and to start to thrive as a mother, to really feel vibrant and empowered and really fulfilled in the motherhood journey. So I started my business back in 2021 with the mission to simply do that. And since then, I've been growing, which is great and amazing. And as you mentioned, I do work a full-time job as well, which is very interesting when you say like, like, people think that's kind of like an oddity to do. And I feel like my life has prepared me for that in so many ways. When I was in like high school, I mean, I started working when I was 16. And so I was working and going to school. And I was in a lot of like extracurricular activities. And then I went to college and I was taking like a credit overload because I was in a dual baccalaureate program and I was working full time and I was co-captain of my dance team. And then once I graduated, I moved to the West Coast. So I'm working, I'm getting used to being on a different coast and meeting new people. So I've always had what I would consider like a multi-layered life. And I feel like I've been training for this, like the Olympics of my life now this whole time, but I forgot about that once I had my daughter, and that's when that disconnect really showed up. Like, I truly forgot who I was and forgot that I was made to be able to manage a life like this and to feel fulfilled through it. So I think that the work that all of us do as, coaches who really work with women and work with mothers is very important because if we don't hold on tight to who we are and all the training we've had in our life to be successful as mothers, then we will completely lose ourselves and then we won't be able to show up our best selves for our kids.
Yeah, totally agree. But I'm telling you, when I was also working since I was 16. It was actually a few days before I lied and said I was 16 because I was technically almost 16. It was at a movie theater. It was some like small job. And I've always been all over the place. Even my friends, they would call me like Dora the Explorer because I was a student and I was working and I was playing sports and but motherhood is a whole nother ballgame. That's why I'm so amazed because I thought that's why I kind of underestimated motherhood because I've always been like, this like high energy person that can do a lot. And then when I had a baby, I was like, oh, this is different. That's why I'm amazed because I'm like, you do all this with children too, right?
No, just one.
Oh,
Just
you have
one.
one. Okay. So yeah. So yeah, all this, well, one is enough.
Yeah, one is a lot.
The one
One
is
is
a
a
lot,
lot.
yeah, so that's why I was just amazed by that. I'm like, even for the most high energy of us doing all this with a baby, but that's why you do what you do and you're a coach, and I was listening to your podcast and we were chatting to hear more about what you do. It's so important to have accountability and structure, and then in moms, especially like kinda like moms that are like us that are, ambitious and we want to get things done. Sometimes we find it hard to like ask for help. And having a coach is just that help and accountability you need. So I appreciate like people like you. And I think it's something that women, that a space that's needed for mothers.
Yeah, and that's a really good point because I was just last week having a conversation about this exact thing, like being a high achiever, overachiever, growing up as a girl and then a woman, and you having all the skills and you're being able to show up and be productive, like in the workspace and in your friend groups. People probably lean on you for a lot of things. And then motherhood really takes you out. Like it really makes you sit down and reflect a lot. And when you have children, you are born as well, right? You are born into motherhood, which is a role that you cannot prepare for. Like there's no amount of prenatal classes, like
Right.
nothing, no book, nothing that can truly prepare you. And then what happens is when we start breaking down in motherhood, we try to use the skills that we learned like back before we were moms that helped us be so productive and be able to achieve. And those skills don't work anymore.
Right.
They do not work. Yeah, yeah, like, you are not the expert anymore. That's not how that works, and, that's a big blow. That could be a big blow to even your ego to feel
Yeah,
inadequate for the first time in your life. So,
totally.
I mean, that's what we work through, in the work that I do and through group coaching. It's really kinda like humbling everyone and being able to accept like life is anew now. All of the old things that you knew, they're going to help you, but those same skills are not going to be the ones that you can like lean on, especially at that 0 to 2-year-old range.
Yes, and I'm so glad you broke that down in one of your episodes. First of all, that's exactly what inspired me to start this podcast was because I was like starting a business and all the people that I looked up to before, they were talking about their like productivity hacks and morning routines and then it none of that spoke to me as a stay-at-home mom building a business with a toddler. And so that's why I was like, I want to talk to other moms, like who are mother moms. And then like I was so happy that you answered my commented on my post. But there was something that you said. You were saying that it's okay to like grieve the life that we had before motherhood and accept it, but then embrace like our new life. And like we have all these basically the expectations versus reality of motherhood, if you can speak on that.
Yeah, so what happens is when we are younger, younger girls, because some people have always known that they wanted children, right? There are some women that can remember since their earliest memory that they knew they wanted to have kids. And for some of us, that's not the case. But even when we decide, we have in our mind this picture of how motherhood is going to be and how we'll be able to show up as a mother. So maybe you decide, I'm going to be a stay at home mom and I'm going to love it and I'm going to put all of my energy into my children. And then there's a group that's like, I'm going to still be a career mom and I'm going to have all the resources and all of the support that I need to thrive in that. And, sure, I'll have to wipe diapers. Sure, the kid's going to get sick. Maybe I won't sleep as much, but I'll still be able to make this work. And the truth of the matter is that the challenging part of motherhood really has nothing to do with the child. It's the mental, the internal battle that we are fighting, and no one prepares us for that. So I always tell women to take a step back and really look at how you thought motherhood would be, and then look at what the reality is of the situation. So, maybe you thought, well, once I have a child, I'm going to stop working and I'm going to, be a stay at home mom. Now you start being a stay at home mom and it's not working the way you thought. Like you thought, I'm going to stay at home because I'm going to spend time with my child. And then when they sleep, I'm going to be able to clean up the house and I'm going to be able to make dinner and everything's going to be perfect. There won't be any dust bunnies. And, my child's going to be happy and thriving and it's going to be great. Well, then you're exhausted. Then you are hit with like that newborn haze. Then your kid is not on the sleep cycle that you thought they would be on. And so you don't have the energy to show up in motherhood the way that you plan to. And instead of just saying, okay, well, I'll just take a loss on that and kind of just work through what my reality is, you keep forcing it. You keep trying to
Yeah.
force that vision that you had for your life
That
And
was me.
that's yeah, and like that's not real. And like even when you work, I know a lot of like, pregnancy for me, like seeing people and how they act in their pregnancy is often very telling of how hard the blow will be once they have a child. But if you're a person who thinks that you're gonna have a child and then all of a sudden all these people are gonna come like knocking at your door to help
Yeah.
you and support you and love you, that's not the reality because people are living their lives and a lot of promises that people make when you're pregnant are just the nice things that you're supposed to say,
Right.
but no one's really gonna just come and rescue you. You have to ask for the help that you need. You have to look at yourself in the mirror and you have to say, "Hey, I know that you wanted to be able to wake up and make breakfast and drink your coffee outside and watch the sunrise. I know that you wanted to do that, but your baby is not that baby. They're not going to allow you to be able to do that, and that's okay for right now. You can get to the type of, motherhood experience that you want as your baby gets more independent, but, like, right now, you need to accept the reality that you have."
Right. Yeah, and that's totally and your timeline was so on point because you was described it as like 0 to 18 or 0 to 2, just rest and just, accept that this is like that you're going through this phase of the newborn, early toddlerhood. And then after 2 to 4, it's gonna get easier. You can start fitting in a workout routine. And your timeline was so on point because my son's about to be 2 and only now I'm able to like start working out like I used to again. And and I'm like, wow, it's like I wish I heard this 2 years ago. Right.
What was I doing 2 years ago, man?
Yeah, I would have known what to, expect earlier. And that's another question I have for you. Do you work with women like moms to be like prenatal or you work with like some women who already have children? Or have you thought about that doing workshops for for pregnant women?
Yeah, I love that question. So I work with women who already have children, and I have definitely considered like prenatal work. It the thing about that is pregnant women tend to think they know everything.
Yeah, I
And I
was
don't
just thinking that. They don't even I didn't they think they know, especially the first child, like you think, "Oh, I got this." Yeah, I don't even think I would I don't even know if I would seek a coach because I would think
Mhm.
but you know what would be I think would be a better solution? It's like you already have these, prenatal classes. If they hired someone like you to, like, come in and just do, like, a session, and that way just hearing because we had some, like, women who spoke about things that like, I didn't even think that would be relevant, but I remember, like, things that she said, but it wasn't even about, like, your thing. She was just talking about, like, breastfeeding and stuff. So I was like, I thought breastfeeding was gonna be so easy, and I'm so glad that they had that session with this, like, nursing this breastfeeding coach because things that she said, I remember from that, like, one session that she came and spoke to us. So that's something to think about. I would, like, pitch that idea to some, prenatal course.
Yeah, I really like that idea. I also though, when I speak to new like expectant mothers, I mean, there's a lot because you don't want to discourage someone who is pregnant, right? You don't want them carrying this load of fear. You just want them to be aware. And so, what I try to do is just like gently, when I organically come along someone who's pregnant, is ask them, "How are you feeling in your pregnancy experience? Like, let's talk about how pregnancy is going first. And what are your plans after the baby comes?" And then from that answer, I'm able to help them and say, well, hey, listen, there are going to be times where you are exhausted, but I mean like truly exhausted. So in those moments, do you have people who you can call? Like, what's your support system like? How do you feel about the idea of postpartum depression? If you're someone who doesn't believe that postpartum depression is a thing, or you don't believe that it can be that debilitating, like we kind of need to break down those walls because if you don't really believe that it could happen to you and then you start experiencing symptoms, you're not going to tell your doctor. So I think the cool thing about doing prenatal work is to really like set up the expectations in the beginning. Hey, you might have a wonderful motherhood experience like right out the gate, maybe.
Yeah.
But if you don't, like really sit and think like, what is it exactly that I am feeling right now? And to understand what resources there are because the expectations part that comes in is that women don't want to seem like a failure. They don't want to ask for help because they feel like, well, this is my responsibility. I should be able to do this. I mean, think about all the stigma even with did you have a natural birth or did you have a C-section? And then we're like, oh, well, C-section moms, like you just took the easy way out, and then natural mom, what are we doing? And
Yeah.
then bottle fed versus breastfed. Like there's all this division around motherhood. And like you already feel like, well, I don't what side am I supposed to be on? And then um moms, sometimes our moms are not supportive when we want to do things differently from what they did when they had their baby. So then
Yeah.
you're like, I don't want to tell my mom because my mom's gonna say, well, this is all you have to do, but you don't want to do that. So it's it's a lot. I mean, we all need a like third party person who's really like not all up in your personal space to objectively say, "Hey, let's take a step back and let's try this out and try it. And if it doesn't work, let's try something else, but be willing to try."
Yeah, and I like that you said it is true that you don't want to be like negative for a pregnant woman. Like you don't want to, scare her because I didn't like when people would tell me how like hard labor would be and hard like so it is like a fine line. Like how do you prepare people without discouraging them? But I think you have a talent for it. Like you tell it how it is and but you say it in like an encouraging way. But yeah, I can see that.
Oh, thank you. I do my best.
I remember like you were mentioning in your podcast, women who don't have a network. For example, like me. Can you give like some tips for a woman that doesn't have like any family that's near her? And you said like people can be creative and find ways to make a network. Like that's one of the things that encouraged me to like kind of hustle in my business because I said, okay, I don't have a village, so I'm gonna have to pay for a village. So
Yeah, so sometimes your village is a paid for village. Like that is just the truth of the matter. But I also think that as women, we have to be a little more resourceful. And that's why I say you have to be creative. So when you go to a new city, or you move to a new place where you don't have many connections, like have you gone down to the local chamber of commerce? Have you gone to commerce? Have you gone to like a PTA meeting or something? Even though your child is not in the school yet, they're probably not school age, but you need to go to the place where you can meet other mothers. Like when you go to the grocery store and you are probably going and seeing like the same checkout person, or you see someone else with kids, like stop being so scared to say, "Hey, excuse me, I just moved into town. I see you have kids my age. Like, what is there cool to do here?" Because other mothers are looking for that too and are afraid to just make a connection. And so you have to do that because I understand that, women say like it's hard and it's just not organic. I get that, but there are families like, military families who are always moving. And oftentimes the woman is doing it on their own while, the husband is deployed or vice versa. And you have to, like, you don't have another option besides going out there and meeting people and forming ways to trust people quickly. Um, and then I also think to ask for the resources that you think you don't have. So sometimes you'll move and maybe your mom would have moved with you, or maybe there's a cousin who lives close by or that can come and sit with you like once a month. Even those small, like having someone who's willing to travel in to support you, very important. And it goes back to not wanting to ask. People, new moms, women sometimes in general, want people to offer help. We want people to just show up,
yeah.
like save us instead of just asking for the thing that you need. And I go through this a lot, like especially in our group coaching program when it comes to like household tasks with your spouse. And I'll say, okay, so what is the situation? Do you feel like they don't help you? And like, yeah, they don't help. Like I do everything. Okay, well, what does he say when you tell him that? Well, I haven't told him. He should just know because he's an adult.
Yeah,
Be
that's
like, no, that's not actually how it
how
works.
I wish.
Yeah, it's not. That's not how it works. Like, nobody's a mind reader, so you have to talk about, um, what you need. Going to schools is very big. If you go to, local playground, that's big. Mommy and Me's are big now everywhere. Like, Fit for Mom is a place that you can go, like, so this is things that you may have to pay membership for, but then you are gonna be able to create friendships through that.
Yeah, that's something that I just discovered here too. They have like some type of mommy and me type of thing, and that but my me and my husband are working it out. Like so in the evening, so when he comes back home from work, so he'll take our son out, and then on Fridays when he doesn't work, then he'll like I'll have my day where I'm like using working on my projects. I know you say like rest, but I feel like my business now is like everything. I'm so passionate about it, so I actually enjoy working. So that's like my day. I go to some coffee shop or something, but yeah, that's how we're working it out now. But everything you said, that sounds like some, creative solutions that I'm sure other moms are looking to.
I love that you feel energized through your work. And I do think that it's important to have things that energize you. And that's what's really important about self care. It's about protecting your well being and your happiness and really finding things that energize you. So for you, you may not feel like you need to rest. You may feel like you need something that is going to give you a boost in another area. And so you want to work on your business. That's great.
That's okay.
Yeah, and that's completely okay. And then there are some times when you're like, "Oh, I just wanna rest right now." And I think that to your point, for other moms, it's very important to create, like, a list of things you would do if the opportunity presented it itself. So
Like Diana?
okay.
Aw. See, this is a mom fight. Yeah, see, it's fine. It's all good.
Yeah, that's my daughter, y'all. So create a list of things that you would do if you were just like suddenly, unexpectedly to have the house to yourself, right? And so maybe some of those things could be like, man, I've been seeing that this cabinet needs, reorganized. Maybe you put that on your list. Maybe there's a book you've been wanting to read. Maybe there's a new album that came out and you want to listen to and you can't listen to it when your kid's home. Um, Maybe there's a new recipe you want to try. Maybe it is just resting because a lot of times I hear a mom will say, "Yeah, my husband took the kids out and it was just me and I had no idea what to do and I spent 2 hours trying to figure out something to do and by the time I settled into something, my family came back home."
Came back.
Well,
Yeah.
you gotta do things for your future self, and I don't mean future 10 years from now. I mean, like, if it's Monday, what can you do today that helps your Friday self? So really thinking about ways that you can just make your life easier when you are trying to align yourself with the vision that you have for your life, and I call it being intentional, and we hear that a lot, like, be intentional. For me, when I say it, I just mean make decisions that align with the vision that you have for your life. And if you don't have a vision for your life, you need to start there. Otherwise, you're just riding the wave of life and you have a lot of complaints because nothing's going your way, but you also don't know which way you're trying to go. So in the program, like on week 4, we do a lot of vision work and we create vision boards and really make sure that, we have clarity on where we're
Yes.
going
That
and
was
what
the
we
word
want.
that came to my mind when clarity, like
Mhm.
intention, being intentional and clarity. And I think that's those are good tips. And I like the list because I found myself like that too. Like the first 6 months, I was just I don't even know how to describe it. I was just like, "Oh my gosh, like what do I do? I don't know." If I had an hour to myself, 2 hours, I was just like that. I didn't know if I wanted to take a nap, if I wanted to eat, if I wanted to shower. I was like too many things to do and not enough time. And then but I like how the idea of like making a list of things and then you just choose one and I like the idea of the vision board, bringing some clarity of like, what do you see your motherhood looking like, and not putting so much pressure on yourself that this has to be now, but like working to that, having something to look for while enjoying the moment still. It's not all terrible, guys. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is beautiful. It really has nothing to do with let me say it this way. A lot of times, mothers, like women, don't want to say that they're struggling in their motherhood journey or not having a good experience in motherhood because they think that that means they don't love their child. And that's not
Yeah.
what we're talking about. You can love your child intensely and not enjoy the motherhood experience. And when you say that to some people, will they say, "Well, I mean, if you don't like the mother experience, then you probably don't like your child." Yeah, they will say that and let them say that, but they don't know. It's like whomever they may be, they don't truly know. And so if you are struggling, just truly struggling in the motherhood experience, you need to take a step back and really ask yourself, how do I want motherhood to look for me? How do I want this experience to feel? And when you answer those questions, now you can start creating routines that align
Yeah,
with
take
those
action.
things. Mhm.
You're so business oriented because it reminds me of like a business plan. That's how I'm thinking about it.
Oh, yeah, I mean, life is a business. I think that life is work and work is life. So even when I'm managing my business, I manage everything out of one calendar. I need to know what's going on. And that way I can see, like, I color code everything. So if my personal color for things is like a purple lavender color. And if I don't see enough lavender in my calendar, I know that I am spending too much time on my business, too much time on work. And so I need to balance it out. And a lot of us have been raised to like be in business and to be productive and to work in like a career field. So we know how to set metrics at work. That is a tool that you can use in your life to make sure that you walk in alignment. I give um, mothers a SWOT analysis. What are your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats when it comes to your motherhood experience and when it comes to your life?
Oh my
All
gosh, I
of
love that.
that. Man, it's very serious because this is language that we understand, and those are the things we can hold on to when we're panicking as new mothers, especially. It's like, well, what do I know? I don't think I'm doing well in this motherhood thing right now, but what am I good at? So you're good at these things. Let's apply that to this part of your life and help build you up. But the first part of that really is like resting. I mean, you can't get clarity if you're tired. If you are exhausted, you can't even make good choices. And that's why I always say like rest for new mother. Like you just I don't think you should be trying to do anything else except for rest because everything is much harder when you're exhausted.
Yeah, I like how you said rest is productive in one of your episodes. I was like, wow, I wish I heard that because I definitely wasn't resting. I was just, yeah, but, and I love the color coding tip. And that's something that I just recently started doing with my calendar, like color coding different things so I like differentiate, but I wasn't like color coding personal self-care things. And if I don't, so I'm going to start doing that, and then if I don't see enough, I know that I have to schedule more self-care thing. But so we can shift over to that because you're the self-care coach. How do you is that what your method of implementing self-care, like really implementing really scheduling it in your daily life?
I do. So I am very much now. Everything happens really in my morning routine mostly. But to take you back to when it first started, like when my daughter was like, it was probably about she was 2 years old when I really started the process of reconnecting with myself through self-care. And it was simple. Like I would just take a shower for a long time and not feel guilty about me not being with her, just taking my time and listening to music that I liked, having aromatherapy involved. Like even right now, I have a candle lit. Those little things that really made me feel like the old me, so to speak, things that I would do before I had her and getting comfortable. And journaling was a big part of that too, with, how do I want to feel? How am I not in alignment with what I wanted to feel? Like how did I sleep last night and how will that impact me? Like it's a lot of mental and mindset work, but now I recommend, and this is my process, this is what I do, and I recommend this to other women as well. You need to wake up at least 30 minutes before like your household. Um, and I wake up like an hour before I really need to wake up because I pack things into my morning routine. But you just getting a little bit of time to yourself to set your intentions for the day and just have some moments of peace before other people need you is very important because people needing you all the time is very depleting. It's not
Yeah.
energizing when people always need you. And kids, all they can do is need you when they're kids. There's not really a reciprocation there. Um,
Right.
so wake up at least 30 minutes before, and I recommend like doing some sort of movement. So like just walk around your house for a little bit. You can stretch, do a little like yoga flow. There are so many like free workouts just on YouTube that you can do just to stretch your body and just to honor your body because you're awake. Um Journaling, very important. A lot of women don't eat their food like while it's the right temperature, so you're not eating your food while it's
Right.
warm or drinking your coffee while it's hot. So I always say take the time to really do that. So for me, I get up hour early. I get myself together. Even when I'm brushing my teeth, I'm like thinking about how do I want this day to go? What are my intentions for the day? How do I want to feel in my workout? And then I go do like 20 minutes of weight training or cardio. Then I do a short yoga flow. Then I journal. Then I'm in the shower and I'm getting ready to like exit for the day. And then my lunch break, I make sure I take my lunch break, whether I want to take a walk, whether I just want to eat and listen to a book or read or watch a show. I take that time for myself. I shut my office door. Sometimes I'll take a drive. And then when I leave work, depending on how I'm feeling, that determines which route I go home because one route is a little more like highway driving. So you have to be paying attention and another route is more of a scenic route. So if I just feel like I need extra time to decompress, I take the scenic route home. So I work full time outside of the home. So I have to leave my house. If you're a mother who doesn't and you have to do things in the house, you have to say, okay, well, how does that look like for me in my home? You're probably doing things more in connection with your child who's there. So what time do they nap? So that means that's probably your ideal time for your self-care. You can still wake up before them, but again, if you're in that 0 to 2 range, like the nights are all cattywampus.
Right.
So I don't recommend you pushing yourself to wake up like much earlier than them. I will say though, if you naturally wake up before them. And then you like go to the bathroom and then you look at the clock and you think, ooh, they'll probably be asleep for 15 more minutes. I should just go back to sleep for 15 more minutes. I would challenge you to your body has woken you up. Like, what can you do while you are awake? Even if it's just meditation and sitting silently instead of getting back into a sleep pattern and then your baby wakes you up and now you're groggy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, wow, those are all excellent tips. Thank you so much.
Oh,
And
you're welcome. We're on a roll.
yeah, and a lot of us are like we have spouses and partners and families. And is that something? Because that's something we also want to prioritize. We don't want to neglect our relationships. Like, even though we have kids, is that something that you also schedule time with your spouse? Do you have some type of like routine with that as well?
So my husband and and shout out to him because he is so very supportive, and I would not be able to do all of these things that I am doing without his support because working full time and then having a business does take me out of the house for a lot of hours, even like odd hours, because I do a lot of things in the evenings, right? When moms are available. Um, but he is very like, he'll say to me, hey, you want to have a date night soon? So we're very intentional about spending that time, just the two of us. And we do have a support system. So our parents, they both live not far from us. So they're often wanting to hang out with our daughter so she can go and have sleepovers. So we do get a lot of time or have the option to have a lot of time, just the two of us. But we also like to do things as our family of three. So if it's a full weekend, we're thinking, okay, on a Saturday, we're going to do something like the three of us during the day. And then maybe at night, we'll go out and do date night and she can have a sleepover. And then in the morning, the two of us will go out to breakfast and then we'll pick her up and then spend the rest of the weekend, at home. So just having a balance. But my husband and I, our situation is unique because our relationship was kind of accelerated because we got pregnant like maybe 6 months into us being together. So we've always been parents in our relationship. So now
Wow.
that she's older, we do have to put more like the work into making sure, like, make sure that we're spending time with each other. But I will say that I am lucky in that I really love my husband and I really like my husband. So I want to spend time with him and no one's forcing me to do it. Um, and so if you don't have a relationship like that, those are what your questions should be. Like, how do I want my relationship to look? Um, what does it mean to show up for my relationship? That's very important. But yeah, like scheduling that time. You have to schedule that time because it's important.
Wow, I love this. So many gems. Well, thank you so much. Tell people where they can connect with you, where they can reach out, or they can join one of your group sessions.
Oh, yes. So back2you in 5.com. That's my website. You can find all of my information there. I offer group coaching 4 times a year. So we have little cohorts that start up so you can see when enrollment starts for each session. My podcast is What Self Care Looks Like, new episodes each week. We have a Mother's Day series coming up. So it's all stories from other mothers who are overcoming challenges and how they approach their self-care, right? Which I think is beautiful. And then this one thing. So and I always forget to kind of mention this, but when I first started my business, it started with an idea, right? I was just like had an idea and I piloted it with a small group of mothers. And my very first resource that I offered was this wellness quiz. And it's just an overall wellness quiz to really check in on how you are with your spiritual wellness, physical wellness, social wellness, emotional wellness, and intellectual wellness. And it's just a 5-minute quiz that's a self assessment. I still offer that quiz and it's a free self-assessment because it's so impactful and effective. Like it's not about me, it's 100% about you and how you're feeling so that you know where you need to go. And that's back5.com/quiz. So if you do nothing else, I would say take that quiz to really prompt yourself to say like, where am I? Where am I with all of this? Where are my needs out of these pillars? And then you can really almost hit the ground running with what it is that you need to do as far as next steps. So I'll see y'all there.
Love it. Definitely download that quiz. Take that quiz. I'll take it.
Definitely.
And one last question. What would you tell yourself you wish your mom to be self knew?
My mom to be self. I would tell her to talk about everything that you're feeling. Like the pregnancy experience is a part of it. And like I mentioned earlier, it really will impact how you go into motherhood. And so whatever um whatever worries and concerns you're having through pregnancy, like talk about it. Discomfort that you're having in pregnancy, talk about it. The fears that you have, there's might be some dark fears that you're having through pregnancy. Talk about that. Talk about how you hope that motherhood will be like, and talk about the type of support system that you want. Because what happens when you're pregnant is everyone says, "Hey, how are you? How are you feeling? What has the doctor been saying about the growth of the baby?" But they're really focused on the baby. And nobody wants to hear if you're like, I'm scared. And a lot of pregnant women are scared and don't want to say that. Like say it and talk about it. And you will find a community of other pregnant women who are feeling the same way and who you can find support through so that when you come into motherhood and you are born as a mother, you can really say, okay, I'm here. I knew that this would be tough. And I know I'm strong enough to do it. And that's what I would have told myself. I needed to hear, talk about all those things in your head that you're scared to say because you think people will think that you're crazy. You're not crazy.
Yeah. And pregnancy, and like you mentioned before earlier, like in early momhood, it's okay. Like I feel like we do have a lot of like fear of being judged, and it's okay to express yourself more, and you'll be surprised how other moms feel the same way. Like when I was listening to your podcast, I was like, oh, so I wasn't crazy. So it's a like normal feeling. It's a normal thought. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me. And thank you for all the work that you do. There are in the US at least, there are like 77 million mothers. Like, think about that. Like, all those mothers out there with all these different challenges, and no one person can help all the moms, right? So, the more women who are out here just showing all of the opportunities that are available to us as mothers and as women is very important. So, thank you so much for the work that you do.
You're so welcome. Yeah, I'm a nutritionist and I know like the importance of, internal health, but I also understand that our mental wellness is so important and your work has a lot to do with that, keeping mama sane so we can take care of the generations of the future. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you and I hope we can have another conversation again in the future.
Absolutely happy to be here.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Maternity Leave. I hope you found value in this episode. Your support means the world. By subscribing, leaving a comment, and sharing this episode with another mom entrepreneur, you'll help it grow and reach more incredible guests who can share their insights and guidance. Until next time, take care, love on your loved ones, and make it happen. You got this.
And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it, get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma.